I'm going to be talking a little bit about how I see our industry at the moment, and how I see the industry changing. As with everything, if you are keeping yourself at the forefront of new standards and processes and new innovations with various groups, then you're a little bit ahead of time of what's happening. And if you're sitting in that position, then you're feeling like, oh, everything is really slow and things need to happen faster, and we need to move to these new standards and processes and technology or whatever it might be. But if you're sitting in the position of a designer or a developer or a contractor, that is the frame or sphere that you're working in, and you're not necessarily interested in all the new innovations that is happening at the forefront of everything. You are here to design your projects and deliver your projects and build your projects. So people like me then come in with reading obscure documents and reading government documents and having the pulse on various groups and see what's going on. And then what we then do is we update and implement these new changes that we see coming into our own system, on our own templates and our own services that we're delivering. And then we go to our clients and saying, okay, this is pending, this is what we see is happening, so we're going to make these changes. And then it takes some time, and then eventually in the practices then we're starting to have notifications on, the client is now requesting this thing, and then because we have then been at the forefront and we have implemented the changes to our system that we then implement to our client system, the clients are then prepared for these eventual changes that are coming. And some of these changes are in terms of IT, is that cloud computing is going to be the next step. And my prediction was before that we're going to have an increased demand on 3D modeling. We're going to have an increased demand of components, 3D components in the models. And a few years back, the idea, even my idea, was that we don't have to model everything in a 3D model. Because that was the norm then, and we didn't have future trends that was kind of pushing. So we don't have to model everything in 3D. We model in terms of 1 to 5 detailing. We model one detail as much as possible in 3D, maybe down to 1 to 10, for example. And then we do an extraction of that detail, and then we finish that detail off in 2D to a 1 to 5 detail, and then we have our typical detail. That means that the 3D model is not going to be so heavy with components that no one ever going to see. And we can still get the drawings out that we need to from the model, and we can still calling it a BIM compliant modeling strategy. But we kind of predicted that the demand on 3D modeling is going to increase, so we started to look at construction or building libraries that are based on construction principles, meaning that when the design team start to model something, the model components with the library that is already optimized for construction sequencing. And with the new golden thread for fire and structural safety, there's going to be new requirements on modeling fire safety components throughout the 3D model, meaning that we're going to have hidden 3D geometry in the 3D model that is required to be there for maintenance purpose, for scheduling. But that means that the model is going to be heavier to work with, meaning that the computers are going to struggle. All the computers are going to struggle. Up to now, we could probably get away with i5 processors or Macs from 2015 running dual boots or Windows partitions or something like that if you're using Revit. But when the demand of additional 3D information is now kind of pending, there needs to be an upgrade overall in the industry of computer components to be able to computer components. You have to be able to handle these new models. Alternatively, we can now split up the models into multiple models for different purposes, and to kind of save model space, if you like. But they put an extra demand on geo-coordination in-house for these 3D models. And in any case, if we want to see all the geometry at once on the screen, we still have to link in all the models. It's going to cost more computer power to run that. And but the thing is, we don't have to handle massive models maybe on a day-to-day basis. Maybe some designers do, but managers and project runners, project directors probably don't. They just need to see some information sometimes. So the demand for different use of the computers is going to increase, and pretty much the only way to do that and to be able to be cost effective working in that manner is to run cloud computing. So that means that offices now need to start to look at their IT infrastructure and their computer management strategy to see how existing computers can be phased out, and instead setting up remote access to cloud computers that can run all the softwares, and we can switch over and change the computer specification on a day-to-day basis depending on what we need to work on that specific day. So we can have a high-end computer one day, and then we can have a Word-based computer the second day, and we're only paying for what we need and when we need it. It's still a little bit premature, but we can see that's happening. In terms of the industry in general, it goes hand in hand with the plans that the government have for how they want UK to operate as a whole, where they want people to live, where they want people to operate and work from, how they want workforces to be distributed outside of London and Birmingham and Manchester, meaning that the coming trend is that individuals should be able to live and work from wherever they want to. They don't have to live in London to work in London. They can live in Bradford and still work in London if they wanted to. And with the upswing of remote access and remote working we have seen now in 2020, we kind of now have proof for that this is working. But the individual infrastructure we have in our homes, not everyone is equipped with high-end broadband, and not everyone is equipped with having isolated spaces in their houses where they can work in peace, away from children and away from family, to be able to concentrate. And not everyone wants to work in the middle of the night when everyone is sleeping. So it doesn't, just because we're starting to have the willingness in the industry to support individuals working remotely, doesn't mean that everyone can do that. And one aspect of that is, and it was the latest, it was one of the argument points in the latest election, that high-speed broadband should be available for everyone. And even if it was the Labour who kind of pushed that point was actually written back in 2013, and the idea of 5G to be pushed out to every household, or to be pushed out in the UK, and high-speed internet to be pushed out to every household, was actually written before 4G was launched in the UK. So the government have already thought about these processes for a very long time, and it's now becoming reality. 5G is going to be released, and everyone is now pushing for high-speed broadband in every home, and that is kind of then paving the way for letting people have more of the technical infrastructure in their houses or in their homes, wherever they choose to live, to be able to function and operate in a professional way in remote locations. This also goes hand in hand with the United Nations, some of the United Nations goals. One of them being that we should have freedom to to operate and live where we want to live and have the capabilities to do so without being restricted to certain areas of the country to live and support our families. And the point I'm trying to make here is that there are many aspects in different parts of the world that are kind of pointing in the same direction. What we are doing in DDC Solutions is to tune our services and our approach and our mentality of our own business and how we are supporting our clients and how we're supporting the industry as a whole and how we're supporting ultimately the UK to achieve these goals that is outlined in the industrial strategy and in the United Nations goals. So by us first of all operating on a 100% remote, 100% digital environment, we show by example that what is possible. Obviously we have the technology in place and we have the infrastructure that we need to be able to operate and work where we work, so we have that advantage. But those changes are coming to individuals who choose to work from remote locations but still operate professionally in the big cities. And we do the same for our implementation of our services. So we implement ISO 19650 compliant solutions, but we also prepared for what's happening now with the golden thread for fire and structural safety. We prepared for that back in early 2018, knowing that there's going to be an upswing in fire safety requirements. So we started back then to update our Revit resources to be able to run risk registers and model in-place masses to be able to produce information that is not common in the standard resources that you get with the software. So you need to be able to produce your own components, and you need to be able to apply your own parameters to these components to be able to output to your COBE schedules, for example. So we have customized our COBE schedule output with standard schedules for architects and engineers. We have customized our responsibility matrix to be in line with those digital outputs from the 3D model. We have customized our risk register output from the 3D model, so we can place risks in 3D. We get parameters that is required, that is relevant for those risks, and we can output that directly from the 3D model into an Excel spreadsheet. So back to the point, by looking ahead, looking into the future to see what trends are happening, and then starting to implement those changes in our own company, to then be able to implement those in advance for our clients. So when the day comes when these requirements becomes a standard, it becomes urgent, our clients are already prepared for that situation way ahead. And sometimes you don't really see the benefit of working ahead of time until the time comes when suddenly someone needs something right now. And then what happens is that you need to react to new demands. And reacting to new demands, like reacting to BIM level 2 back in 2016, is more costly than being prepared for those changes for the future. And it poses more risk to the company and to the project itself. Okay, I think that ramble is over. Thank you for listening.